What is that, like 50 infected? Man, this is easy mode. These waves are nothing. As I write this, there are 30 different achievements in They Are Billions. The original set included 18 different achievements in 3 different groups. These are the Survivor, Infected Killer, and Colony Mayor achievements. In summer of 2018, 4 more achievements were added. These 4 include one for building all 6 wonders in the same game, plus 3 achievements for killing giants. In late 2018, 8 more achievements were added. These final 8 all require beating the game while only using certain types of units and defenses. In this video, I'm only going to cover the original set. Here in the background, you can see the waves from my completion of the Colony Mayor 4 achievement, which I played on Peaceful Lowlands, which is the second map, at 150 days and at the lowest population setting. The Infected Killer achievements are granted for killing a number of zombies. The lowest level is at 10,000, and this is the first achievement that I ever got. There are 10 levels of this achievement, each at ever higher numbers killed. The highest level is at 100 million zombies killed. Unless you've been beating 500% a few times a day, that achievement is going to be incredibly hard to beat. You only get credit for zombies killed at the end of a game. That is, you only get credit when the game comes to an end, whether you win or lose. Losing counts. There were a ton of old games that I had played where it looked like the situation was lost, so I just bailed instead of waiting for my command center to be overrun. After playing the game for a while and learning more about it, I went back to a lot of those saves to see if I could stabilize the fight and survive, which I was sometimes able to do. Other times I was just host. But I did find out that you get credit for kills after that game over screen. So stick it out. Even if the game is a lost cause, let it run. Maybe go refill your coffee or something. As much as I've played, I haven't really killed that many zombies. I'm still under 1 million, which is just level 5. The Survivor achievements are granted for completing the game at one of the 4 named difficulty settings. The first time I beat Map 1, I got a Survivor medal, but the Level 2 medal, which is for an accessible win. I didn't get the achievement for Level 1 at the same time. I had to go back and play an easier game to get that medal. I think the levels are set by score factor, but I'm not entirely sure. It could be by population density or game duration, or both, although I'm not sure. The only other factor here is the map. I'm tempted to say that both the duration and the population need to be, say, brutal in order to get the brutal achievement. Note that the lowest score factor that's both brutal in duration, that is 80 days, and brutal in population, which is high, is 320%. The Colony Mayor achievement is the only achievement in this set that you really go for just to get the achievement rather than to pump up your score. Note that it pretty much takes a population of 1,000 to beat the first map, unless you crank the difficulty setting really low, and I frequently have cities in the 2,500 to 3,000 range, so the 1,000 and 2,000, which are the first 2 levels of this achievement, are pretty easy to get, and chances are you're going to get them along the way. But hitting a town of 5,000 takes work, and 10,000 is a real stretch. So I'm going to focus on the 10K achievement for a bit. There are 3 complications here. For one, the game grows exponentially. You only have a little gold income in the first 10 days, and it's hard to build a whole lot. But tents are cheap, and you can get a lot of population pretty quickly. Yet the upgrades to Cottage and Stonehouse get you more citizens without having to get more land. Yet they're more expensive. Per citizen, they require more energy, more gold, and more materials. To build enough housing to fit 5,000 people takes time, and you really have to dedicate yourself to growing your city to hit the 5K mark. You need a ton of wood and stone in addition to gold, and chances are you'll have the whole map cleared before you have a chance to grow your city that large. Somewhere around 4,000 population, income tends to be so huge that you can research whatever you want and get the troops and executives you need to defend your town, so it's tempting to sit back and win, rather than to keep pushing. But you've got limited time to hit 5K, so you do have to keep pushing. In fact, I spent a lot of time paused just buying lumber and stone clicking over and over and over again to have the materials I needed to upgrade my housing. I had way more gold than I needed, but just not enough lumber and stone. Tents were easy. Upgrades were not cheap, and the map didn't even have the wood and stone that I needed. Iron and oil turned out to be not a problem at all when you're chasing the population achievement. The second complication is food. To feed 10,000 citizens, you need somewhere around 7,500 food. That Crystal Palace and its 800 food doesn't seem as impressive when it's just over 10% of your total food needs. On some map, it's exceptionally difficult to find a way to get that much food. Lakes are limited, forests are limited, grass is limited. What can you do? I chose to play on the Peaceful Lowlands map mostly to help combat this issue, although I think on the first map there actually tends to be even more lakes and more grass. Yet there's tons of open space still on Peaceful Lowlands and lots of grass, so there was plenty of rooms for the farms that I needed. Nearly every prime grass spot was covered by a farm, and by prime here I mean a place where I could place a farm and get 58 or more food from it. If you're willing to go lower to 50 or 42 or 40, then you can get more food, and you're probably going to have to do that on some of the other maps. But generally, if you build your walls all the way out to the limits of the map, you can find the food that you need. The Crystal Palace does help a lot. It turns a 6x6 patch of dead earth into 800 food. Meanwhile, all your other pristine patches need to have both advanced farms as well as be near a warehouse. And to hit 10k pop, you'll need a lot of warehouses. Hit every available lakeside with fishermen and plant hunters wherever you can. One thing I sometimes forget is that you can put hunters on open grass. If you don't want to put a farm down for 32 food, you can usually put a hunter's hut there instead and get 10 food out of it. It might seem here like I'm saying to never put houses or other buildings on grass, but that's not true. Take consideration when you plan your building and try to leave the big, huge patches of grass for farms, but it's not necessary to be too retentive here. You will wind up putting farms on every other available patch of grass that there is in the map. So how does 7,500 food feed 10,000 people? There are two things to note. One is that tents and cottages that are near a market consume 25% less food, 3 for tent and just 6 for cottage. The market only provides a 20% bonus, not 25%, so this seems kind of weird. But it plays out with a stone house, which normally consumes 16 food for 16 citizens. Yet with the market, it doesn't step down to 12 food required like a scale up of a tent or a cottage would. Instead, it requires 13 food, which is an 18% reduction. When I got the 10k achievement, I wound up placing a lot of tents in open areas not covered by a market, so keep that in mind. You will need a lot of space. Also note that you can only have 3 markets and 3 banks total on the entire map. You cannot place any more. And I like to place my market and bank back to back and have built up nothing but housing in the influence area around those 2 buildings. And I call that a city center. Such a center will have between 2,000 and 2,500 population, depending on how many obstructions there are in the area. So you're going to need 5 city centers. Think of which 3 of those will have markets and which will have banks. Probably the same one, but it's going to be the same 3. I wound up with 3 cities with both and 2 housing areas that had neither. Obviously, the emphasis is going to be to make sure that those cities with the bank and the market are the ones where you put your stone houses. And if you just wind up using tents to hit your 10,000 mark, then do that in one of your cities that does not have a bank or a market. I also managed to find a place to put an inn roughly in the middle of those 3 cities so that I could take advantage of its gold boost. I didn't build a Victorious, which would have given a 20% gold boost, because by the time I could afford wonders, I had so much gold income that more gold was just pointless. Alright, so one more point about food. You don't need houses for 10,000 citizens. There's 2 citizens in every hunter's and fisherman's hut, 12 in every farm, 24 in an advanced farm, and 10 in your command center. The Crystal Palace, which you'll definitely want to build, adds another 60 citizens, which you otherwise don't need to feed. I had over 1,200 citizens not in houses. The third complication is power. Farms need power, but houses need more. And if you've got 3 dense city centers surrounded by stone houses, you're going to need around 5,000 power to keep all of them running, plus more power for your next 2 city centers, plus power for everything that's not food or house. Power plants are great. They provide 150 power each and have a relatively small 3x3 footprint, or, well, 5x5, because you can't place any other buildings right next to them, but they burn through wood. To build as many power plants to fuel your entire city, you'll need a sawmill on every single tile of forest on the map. You're just going to have to go crazy with sawmills. Again, you're going to want to expand to the buildable edges of the map just to get some extra sawmills in. Even so, you're probably going to wind up with mills covering your map anyway. I had definitely that situation. I was a bit late to the sawmill idea, so I wound up with more mills than I really needed, as well as over 30 extra lumber being produced, which is lumber I could have used for power. 30 lumber is 3 power plants, which is 15 mills, which is a hell of a distraction. More aggressive territory coverage just to get more sawmills down would have saved me a lot of headache here. Don't build your outer walls at nice, easy choke points where it's easy to defend. Build them out there in the wild, near the map limits. You're going to need the wood. Now, a couple more notes on this achievement. If you're still watching, great. Thanks. Please hit the like button. And if you want to see me cover the other achievements, also click on subscribe and drop a comment. So, a couple more points. One is that it doesn't matter what difficulty you do this achievement on. As long as you complete the game, difficulty doesn't matter. You don't need a medium or a high population of infected to get credit. A low infected pop will work, or even very low. Anything. If you want to do it on brutal, go ahead. But this achievement is more about just chasing the achievement, so I don't think there's any reason, other than chasing boredom away, to try a harder difficulty than you need to. You can see in these shots that I'm trouncing the wave, and that's fine. I'm just trying to hit 10k pop. And second is that it doesn't matter what game length you choose either. I will say that it's easier to build up a city in the longer games. I know I could have hit the 10k target before the final wave in a 120-day game, which means somewhere around day 109, but I chose a 150-day game just for the extra cushion. As it was, I wound up spending between days, about 112 and 137, just farting around with my defenses, since I made it to 10k just after day 110. I think hitting 10k before day 91 would have been pretty rough, and I probably would have had to take these suggestions into account and made a second attempt. But I didn't need a second attempt because I just chose the easy way out. So that's it. Again, to get the Survivor achievements, you have to LTP or get good or whatever them darn kids say these days. Build up the skills and habits that it takes to beat the harder difficulties. I've got some tips and strategy videos to help you get there. To get the Infected Killer achievements, just keep playing. The more you play, the more you kill. The more you kill, the better you feel. So eat your beans at every meal. And the Colony Mayor achievements, plan your city centers to use your 3 banks and markets wisely, expand to the entire map, and be aggressive with wood and stone. Good luck and have fun.